As a fourth-generation entrepreneur and business owner, I know the grit and grind that it takes to run a business. With Chingon SA, we're capturing stories from other local business owners and community leaders to highlight them for you, our querido community of San Anto. From the culture, for the culture. Welcome, everybody, to the Chingon SA Podcast. I'm Luis. I'm the host of the show. And, man, I am so excited to bring you guys the second season of the show. This is going to be the second episode. We're kicking it off, and we've got some great guests lined up. I'm super excited to welcome my first guest of the season, Sheriff Javier Salazar, the sheriff, the 34th sheriff of Bexar County, which is super cool because I can't believe there's only been 34 sheriffs in Bexar County.
Since 1731.
1731. He is a San Antonio native, which is really cool. Graduated from Clemens High School. And has been in public service for more than 23 years, actually spending most of that time with SAPD, leading serving in different roles, including internal affairs, communications. He got a criminal justice degree from Alamo Colleges. Where'd you go? Is that SAC? Yeah, SAC. And then eventually moved over to Wayland Baptist University, became a peace officer. And has now been reelected to his third term as sheriff with 57% of the vote as of 2024. That's pretty good, man. And that makes you the first sheriff to serve 3 straight terms.
In a while. In a while. There was one before.
Really 2 decades. That's right. Yeah, I didn't finish that. There you go. But yeah, man, thanks so much for coming on the show. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we were, chit-chatting before the show, just kind of getting to know you a little bit. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on the show. But I want to spend some time on getting to know who you are. So you went to Clemens. You grew up in the area, I assume?
Yeah, I did. Grew up in a military family. I'm the youngest of 6. And, grew up I'm a native of Universal City, to be honest with you. Grew up in Universal City, Schertz area. Military family though, but my dad always had multiple jobs. The dude's 87 years old, still won't slow down. So my whole life he was in the military until I was about 5 years old, but he's always been a musician since before his military career, and then since then to present day, the guy still.
What does he play?
He's a singer.
Okay,
and guitar player, singer, mariachi style. So you may actually catch us at Pico de Gallo. Sometimes on Saturdays, he and I get together there, and we'll start belting out songs with the mariachi group once they arrive, man. It's always a good time.
That's great.
But youngest of 6 kids, and Clemens High School was it, and then after that, I became a bartender right out of high school.
Yeah.
And really felt like I wanted more, out of life, and so needed a way to pay for college because we were not despite the fact that my dad always worked a lot, we were not a wealthy family. So I saw that the police department was hiring and that they had a tuition reimbursement thing. I said, well, I'll try this law enforcement thing for a while and see how it grows on me. And I'm in my 33rd year, so safe to say it took. And,
So I'm surprised. I mean, usually, at least, the idea that I have in my head typically is that most people that spend their life in law enforcement, they come from law enforcement families, right? Like they have a tradition of law enforcement families. So you're first gen law enforcement.
I'm first gen law enforcement. My dad was in the military, and we could do a whole podcast episode on just this. But he was in the military, Vietnam vet, and I wanted to serve like he did, right? But my dad actually didn't encourage us to join the military. I had 2 brothers that joined the military, but he didn't encourage it. And there was some stuff that gave him a bad taste in his mouth over there. You remember several years back, the U.S. government went back and they recognized thousands and thousands of minority veterans that had earned medals but got cheated out of them, and they went back and retroactively gave them their medals. Well, my dad was one of those. So 5 years before I was born, he earned the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star. He was wounded in action. 5 years before I was born.
He served in
Vietnam. I was 43 years old when they finally gave him those medals. And he was mad. Absolutely. He was mad, not just because of the fact that they didn't recognize it, but the benefits that come attached with that. So they cheated, what he says, cheated his family out of 48 years worth of benefits attached to those medals that you can't get back. And so anyway, that was why he just really didn't encourage the military. But law enforcement was it for me.
Yeah, nice. And so you spent the majority of your career at SAPD.
I did.
And then I know you have to have a close relationship with the chief, right? I mean, you guys are heads of each of your respective departments. Sure. He's getting ready to retire soon, man. And there's been some talk about you potentially, maybe taking over his role. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, right. I just don't, it's not in the plans. While I love the SAPD to this day, it was great. I'll always look back fondly on those almost 24 years that I spent there. But I've moved on. This is my home now, the sheriff's office is, and I like the direction the agency is going in. I just, I feel comfortable here. And not to mention, look, last election, the voters decided they wanted me, and I made a commitment. So I still got 3 more years of that commitment left, and then as it stands now, I plan to go again, and just no plans in going elsewhere.
Yeah, good. We'll get to your current career in just a minute, but I know one of the things that I kind of looked up about you online was that you started in overnight patrol shifts, sleeping in your truck.
Well, not on duty, sleeping in my truck.
Of course. I would hope not. But I read that you would sleep in your truck to get through school because you had early days. You had to get to school, and you didn't have time to go all the way home necessarily, and come back. What were you thinking, man?
Well, I knew I wanted my education, right? That was my reason for becoming a law enforcement officer. I wanted a college degree of some sort, and the PD was doing it. So I worked the overnight shift, which meant I would get off at 6:30 in the morning. And my patrol district was the shallow west side. So UTSA downtown, all the way over like Guadalupe Street, Castroville. That was all my area. I'd get off at 6:30 in the morning. And then my first class at SAC was 8 o'clock in the morning, or 8:30, something like that. So I would get off work, go to SAC, sleep in my truck for catch a little power nap in the truck. For about 30, 45 minutes, and then get up, go to class, wearing my uniform pants with a t-shirt, and then all my gear in a athletic bag because I didn't want to leave my gun and stuff in the car. But I did that for a while till I got my degree.
So I'm curious, is having a college degree a requirement for law enforcement?
No, but to me, in my opinion, it is a good, for several reasons. I think it makes you a more well-rounded officer. You understand why you're putting somebody in jail and then what happens afterwards, because you learn that stuff as well. Not to mention, it's a good fallback. And that's why I always encourage my cadets to this day is get an education. Our careers don't last forever. Sometimes you get injured and you can't continue. Sometimes something happens and you lose your job. But you'll always have that education that people can't take away. Later in my career, I got injured severely on the inner line of duty and almost got medically retired because of a back injury. And I was terrified because we had just moved into a new house. My, payment went up considerably, and I was about to lose my job. That was, in my mind, that was the worst case scenario, is I was about to be medically retired because I was injured, couldn't perform. And so, but I had my degree, and so I'm like, okay, we might lose this house, but we won't starve to death.
Yeah. And so what took you into communications? Is your degree in communications or?
No. So during my time as a bartender, I actually spent some time as a RTF major at SAC. I grew up in radio and TV. So one of the side jobs my dad had, his side hustles he had, is he actually, for many years it wasn't a side hustle. He was a DJ at KEDA radio.
Okay.
And so from the age of 5, I was doing voiceover work with him at KEDA, Spanish and English. And then when I got into junior high school, he actually had a little TV show that he did on public access called Está con Plácido. My dad's name is Plácido Salazar. And so I learned to work the camera, and then from time to time he would have me on as a guest host, and I would do some on-camera stuff. And so when I became a law enforcement officer, I learned that there was a unit within the agency that did that. So ultimately, I worked my way over. Like I did a lot of jobs between there and there, right? I bike patrol, downtown, patrol, community policing, internal affairs. I was an executive protection officer, so I was like a bodyguard for a while. Narcotics. I did 10 years in narcotics working undercover, but ultimately I knew that that's where I wanted to go, and I had to work my way over to that side. It's a big agency, so I had to work my way over to that side of the agency, make myself known to the chief, and then at some point I was able to get that opportunity.
Yeah. How long did you spend as a public information officer?
About 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years, and then I lost my ever-loving mind, decided to run for public office.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. I'd love to get into that. Like, what was the catalyst for that transition? Like, what made you think that you wanted to do that?
So at the PD, don't get me wrong, I loved my job at the SAPD, but I had really done all the jobs that I wanted to do, and I was feeling kind of I wouldn't say burned out. I was kind of feeling like, man, what do I do now? What do I do next? And my wife says, I don't know, what do you want to do? She's, I said, well, I'd kind of like to run my own agency at some point, but I don't think this is where I want to run. I don't want to be the chief here. I don't want to, I want to do something else. She goes, I don't know. Then just look, either stop talking about it or run for sheriff. I don't care. Just stop talking about it. Literally, that was the conversation. And I went, wait a second, I should. And, started doing some research on the topic. And I at that time, the 2016 election was coming around. It was less than ideal timing financially for me where I was in my career at the PD, but talking to the folks in the local Democrat Party, they're like, this is going to be the year for Democrats. That seat is currently held by a Republican, that was a huge that one Republican countywide was way out of place. So now's the year to do it if you're going to do it. And so I did, threw my name in the hat as a Democrat, and won the primary. I had a little runoff because I was virtually unknown, aside from having been the spokesman at the PD, but got in a runoff, won the runoff, and then from then on out, barely won the general election. But then from then on out, man, I haven't looked back.
That's awesome, man. I've always admired politicians, or people, not all of them. Yes, not all of them. Thank you for correcting me. I've always admired people that, don't have careers in politics, that decide to, step up and make an impact, have an impact in the community that they serve. And I've always just been in awe of the process of that. Like, what is it? I mean, because your mindset has to shift, right? Because you're no longer, every 4 years, you've got to reapply for your job. Whereas most people just apply for a job once.
Yeah. So good point. Well, so back to when I decided to run, I was actually at that point, that PIO job, that media services job was my dream job. I call it, I was in my Super Bowl. Like there was nowhere else to go for me. I was in my Super Bowl. And when I went to announce that I was running, I knew I was going to have to step down. I wasn't going to have to leave the agency, but I was going to have to leave that job because it's a conflict of interest. You can't have, we know what happens in a political campaign. You cannot have the spokesman for the SAPD calling the current sheriff a liar on TV, right? So I had to step down. That was heartbreaking. It was a leap of faith because I'm like, I'm never going to get back to this dream job. Right. Probably going to make some enemies in local politics. And so if I don't win, I'm going to be blackballed. At least I felt like I was going to be blackballed in local government. And I'm like, I got to win. So I put the pedal to the metal, man, and I ran a full grassroots campaign. They reassigned me to a unit at the SAPD that it's at the time it was called the Intelligence Unit. But while I was there, we changed the name to the Integrity Unit. But what the Integrity Unit does to this day still, they investigate criminal allegations against law enforcement officers and public officials. I have a unit at the sheriff's office that does that as well. So that's what I did as my quote-unquote day job. I supervised the detectives that did that job. And then, evenings, sometimes lunchtimes, I'd clock out, go do a political luncheon or a debate, come back to work, clock back in, get back in my get up, and then go in the evenings, block walking, running a full-on grassroots campaign. and doing my thing. And
yeah, and I mean the cool thing about the grassroots campaign is that obviously in 2008 when Obama first ran, like he laid the foundation for that, right? Like the groundwork was already there. Did you take a lot of what what other campaigns kind of influenced how you ran your campaign?
Man, I've got a lot of folks that I still consider mentors to this day, and spent some time with them last night. The Castros are somebody that I still consider, huge mentors. Jose Menendez, Trey Martinez Fisher, all those guys. Ina Minjares, still a friend. She's out of politics now, but still a friend and somebody I look up to. So there's a whole lot of folks that I look up to. And look, here's a little secret. I actually enjoy grassroots politics, man. Even when I am not on the ballot, like this go round, I'm not on the ballot. I don't run again until 28. I will be out there knocking on doors with candidates during my time off the ballot because I enjoy it.
Who's your endorsement that you're excited about, that you want people to know about, that should that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So some of the races I'm staying out of the primaries, but there's one in particular that I'm getting quite involved in, right? So I was a spokesman at the PD when I decided to run. Well, my spokesman at the sheriff's office right now is running. He's kind of taken some time off, but he's a deputy, a guy named Johnny Garcia. He is running for Congressional District 35. So he's running for the big leagues, man, U.S. Congress.
Oh, wow.
But the dude is putting in the work. I mean, he doesn't need my endorsement. He's got it. He's got my full support, but he's off and running and doing his thing. He's got a lot of good federal support. He's getting some good attention.
Johnny
Garcia.
Yeah. District 35.
Yep, District 35. So it's basically the southeast side of Bexar County, and then Wilson County, Karnes County, Guadalupe County. But man, he's doing his thing, and for many years he's been my spokesperson. But when I'm on campaign, obviously on his off duty time, he helps me out a lot, and he observes what's going on and how to run a grassroots. So he's watched me block walk 1 million doors. He's watched me make fundraising calls. He's watched me do all kinds of stuff, and he's often doing it. And I'm just going to be super proud when he gets into office.
Yeah. Nice. Any other endorsements that you're excited about?
Well, obviously a good friend of mine, Bobby Pulido, is running for a similar office in 15. So Bobby and I just recently met a few years ago, but his dad and my dad go way back because of the music business. Yeah. So Bobby's another one that I'm pretty excited about. And, again, I'm not getting involved in too many of the local primaries, but as soon as the primaries are over with, whoever wins them, I will be spending a lot of time supporting them and block walking with them for sure.
Nice. Just kind of bringing our conversation to present day, right? I mean, with everything going on recently in Minnesota, people are scared, man.
Yeah.
People are scared. There was a senator that came down to San Antonio to observe immigration court recently. I forget his name. Murphy. Chris Murphy, right? Yeah. He came down. And the story that he told about, the family that he was able to kind of help get out of court without being, interfered with. Right. So I guess my question to you, quite frankly, is how can the community work together with local law enforcement to, protect each other?
Well, look, here we are blessed, and I tell my cadets this from day one in the academy, is that, you may hear in other parts of the country, even in other parts of the state, I won't name any names, that really don't like their law enforcement. They don't like their first responders. We don't have that problem here in Bexar County, San Antonio. We have a good relationship with our community. We're blessed to have that, and it can go away just like that if we screw up. And we owe it to them to have that good relationship. Why? Because they should always feel secure calling us.
Right.
And that, in my opinion, goes to the immigrant community as well, the undocumented community as well. That's why we make it clear to us. I'm constantly saying it, and I'll shout it from the rooftops. No importa la calidad migratoria. I don't care what your migratory status is. If you need us, a victim or a witness to a crime, then call us. We're going to treat you as a victim or a witness. As a matter of fact, victims and witnesses have certain protections. Still, have certain protections under the law that we can fill out some documents and you can stay in the country legally while that investigation goes on, and you're protected. So we it's important to me that everybody knows that here we don't care about that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there have been a couple protests here locally, right? And thankfully, they've gone off without a hitch, right? We're not seeing what we're seeing in, other parts of the country and stuff. But how are you guys working with local organizations that want to do protests and stuff like that? To kind of work in tandem and say, hey, yeah, you have a First Amendment right to free speech, and you have a right to protest. We want you to do it safely. We want you to do it, according to the laws, and go about your business.
Well, we want to protect them and their right to protest. I mean, look, let's go back to the 2020 protests, right? Also, as a result of what happened in Minneapolis with George Floyd, we had protests here at the courthouse, and some of those weren't as friendly. But I always made it a point whenever they were at the courthouse, right? I can't speak for City Hall. Courthouse is within my purview. I would always make it a point to go out and greet the organizers. And, sometimes they weren't happy to see me.
Sure.
But I'd come out and I'd try to be as disarming as I could, not surrounded by a bunch of security. Just come out, hey, man, look, I'm the sheriff. You guys are coming out here. Welcome. This is the courthouse. Just be respectful of the property. Do your thing. And if any counter-protesters show up, I'll be right inside. If anything happens, we're going to be here to protect you. And normally they'd shake my hand and be thankful of it, and then we'd stay out of their way. Now, granted, just like you see in other cities, right? Other cities, they'll bring out their riot control teams with the helmets and the shields and the heavy armored equipment. Guess what? I have all that stuff too, but you won't see it until it becomes a problem and they're needed. Keep them out of sight, because that kind of stuff tends to incite. Yeah. It absolutely escalates. And I'm a firm believer in letting people feel free to do their thing. Now, when they become problematic, okay, we've got something for that. But until that time, man, y'all got your right, and we're going to respect that right. So fast forward to today, there's some technologies that exist today that didn't exist back then, for us anyway. Let's look at the No Kings protest that they had not too long ago. We're out there. We've got our teams hidden away. We're one of several agencies that we're helping with that. We got drones overhead, but the drones, again, are not there to keep an eye on the protesters. It's there to watch to make sure there's nobody else approaching the route. But, man, my favorite moment, and this is puro San Antonio, man, this is just awesome. When that march started, they're all marching, and we're like, man, there's some kind of commotion at the front. Let's put the drones on that. And it was a freaking mariachi and some people dancing. Yeah. I remember, I'm like, oh, this is so freaking beyond awesome. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of stuff you don't see going on in other parts of the country, but you do here.
That's very true, man. I mean, a lot of what you see in the media is just bad, right? Like, it's all the bad stuff. You don't hear about the good stuff that you're talking about right now, right? I didn't know that you had gone out prior to the protest and talked with and engaged in conversation, in healthy conversation with the organizers. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, right? Like, how can those organizations work with law enforcement to say, hey, look, we are coming here to protest, but we do want to be respectful. Nobody's intention is to cause any harm or cause any ruckus, really. It's just we're exercising our right.
Let me give you a perfect example, man. During those protests in 2020, I actually became really friendly with one group in particular that they call themselves the Radical Registrars. And their goal was to register people to vote, but they were a little even by their own terms, they were a little bit more radical than most, right? But I invited them to the office, gave them a tour of my office. We talked about their protests. The two head organizers were both very, very nice people. So fast forward to now, those two very nice people that were just Radical Registrars, State Representative Josie Garcia and Pharaoh Clark, her chief of staff.
Okay.
Yeah, I met them when they were activists, and now look at them. They're holding state office and doing their thing. And she's one that I support every time she comes up.
Nice.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And I've block walked with her. I've done all kinds of cool things with her. She's helped me try to get legislation pushed through. Because I always have a legislative agenda whenever we have the legislature comes around. I have an agenda that I get actively involved in, and I push these bills through to try to get them through. She's always helped us out with that kind of stuff.
Nice. What's something that you're excited about? What's on your agenda that you're excited about trying to get pushed through the state
legislative this time? Well, I'll tell you what, there's one that I'm really passionate about right now because of what I'm seeing. I don't know if you follow me on TikTok or whatever, but on TikTok, I've become pretty active with this cause in mind. So right now there's a big jury duty scam going on that people are literally calling and posing as members of the sheriff's office. And they're saying, hey, you missed jury duty. You got a warrant for your arrest. But if you stay on the phone with us because you're under a gag order, we're going to direct you on where to go to pay your fine so that you don't get taken, you don't get arrested. And many times it's the senior community that falls for it. But literally, they keep these people on the phone 2 or 3 times and have them drive around to several different stores, going to those Bitcoin machines, purchasing Bitcoin. And I am not kidding you on this. I'm about to put it on social media in a little while. We had a lady last night that lost $25,000 to these scammers. I would like to see either a local ordinance and or a state law that makes it a law that says if you're a retail establishment, a big one or a small one, and you have one of these machines in your store, you have to have signage over it warning people that, hey, are you being asked by someone to withdraw or to deposit or buy Bitcoin on this machine? If so, this could be a scam. Call the sheriff's office. I know that if I voluntarily ask people to do that, they may or may not. But that's why I feel like we need legislation to force them. If you're going to have this, because look, let's face it, the businesses that have these, they make money on it.
Yeah, right.
So there's a reason they have these machines. Well, these machines are also used to victimize people. And that's a big deal for a senior citizen to lose $25,000 in one fell swoop that we might never get back for her. So I feel it's the responsible thing to do for them to post some notice. We'll make them do it if we have to.
Nice. Well, good. Sheriff, man, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and being open. And, kind of like as we wrap up, what is one thing, if you're looking at yourself at age 25, you're sitting across the table from your 25-year-old self, what would you look at that 25-year-old Javier Salazar and tell him about who you are today, that you're most proud of, a lesson that you have learned, maybe the hard way, right? But that you're looking at him and saying, I'm proud of you for that.
So I'm talking to my 25-year-old self.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say, I hate to break this to you, but you're gonna lose your hair in a couple of years. No, I joke. I'm joking. I would say big things are coming. So get your A game together, because you're going to lead an agency, a very big agency, not too much in the distant future. And you need to have your A game and learn everything that you possibly can.
Yeah, never stop learning.
Never stop learning, and never stop surrounding yourself with people that you can learn from. Like that whole time I was working as on Chief McManus's protective detail and in his office and as his spokesman, I was watching and learning, not just him, but members of his command staff, supervisors that I dealt with, and I was learning everything that I could, and they're lessons that I still absolutely, not only do I use them today, I try to pass them on, knowing what's coming for those young deputies that I'm swearing in. I'm trying to pass those lessons on to them as well.
Nice. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. Really appreciate it. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Chingon SA. Hope you've enjoyed. I was going to call you Chai. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Sheriff Salazar, thank you so much for coming on the show. Be sure to follow him on TikTok. What's your TikTok?
Sheriff Salazar.
Sheriff Salazar.
Sheriff Javier Salazar on
Do that on Facebook,
TikTok, Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we'll tell our audience to make sure that they're following you on those channels. Guys, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Chingon SA. We'll see you guys next week. This has been an LIS Studio and Serafina Digital production. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show on your favorite platform. And tell a friend about the show by sharing this episode on your Facebook and TikTok. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or someone doing really cool things in San Antonio and want to get your story on our show, email us at luis@lealinsurance.com.